YouTube to pick this up, huh? Hopefully it will not take an eternity. And it hasn't. Thank you, Race Spec Bot, putting the stream in the Discord almost straight away. Fantastic. So stream's up, the chat's up, we're all good to go. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round 13 of the PS4 Tier 2 Elite Series here on Race Spec Esports. It's time for the Singapore Grand Prix here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. This 5-kilometer, 23-turn racetrack has been on the Formula 1 calendar since 2008. It's pretty much been on the staple on the calendar since 2008. And there's three key features about this racetrack. The first of which is a typical tight, narrow, very difficult to overtake street circuit. There are, however, a few overtaking opportunities located at Turn 1, Turn 7 at Memorial Corner, and Turn 14. And the third and probably most important term of this racetrack is that it is the longest race in terms of time in the championship. This is going to be a marathon, and it doesn't help with the fact that there are only 12 cars here tonight. As you can see, only 12. It's not the most spectacular sight in the world, but, and it is a big but, and it's an important but to remember, field size doesn't determine the quality of racing. It never does. Okay, you can have a full grid or you can have a field with 10 cars, doesn't matter. You can still get fantastic racing. So I guess the message that I'm trying to send across is be optimistic, because even though the field doesn't look incredibly big, I still feel like we can still get a relatively good race. With qualifying beginning, no clouds that I can see. It is night time, of course, so it's going to be very difficult to see any sort of cloud cover. But it appears as if it's going to be a dry qualifying session. Hopefully I'll get a report from someone in the session, so then we know what kind of conditions we're going to be dealing with in the race. And the drivers are making their way out on their first out laps. Isak Kush is the first driver to do so. Following him is Red Bull, that's VSR Roscoe. And Isak's teammate, the Hairy Tomato, he's going to be the third driver to set a flying lap. Alright, evening fellas. Good to see you all in the chat, watching the show. Hopefully it'll be a good one. I just recommend sit back and enjoy. It's probably what I would recommend. Like I said, even with 12 cars, there's still a fair chance for a good show here tonight. I hope. Hopefully we'll see some good driving in between some of the good racing periods. We'll typically see a lot of drama and chaos off the start. We tend to see that at most street circuits, but sort of that period between lap 5 to the checkered flag, hopefully we see some good racing. If not, we'll hopefully see some good driving. Perhaps we can learn a thing or two from these guys, how they conduct themselves around the street circuit. I'll tell you what, we're going to stay on board with Izzard, and we're going to take a little bit of a guided tour around this racetrack. First developed in 2008, designed in quotation marks by Herman Tilke, and it's been on the calendar ever since. It's developed some pretty entertaining racing. I say entertaining, it's been more dramatic and chaotic rather than entertaining racing. But still, as that's coming into turn 1, fourth gear, having a second crack at the corner sideways through turn 2. You can see there when he rode the curb, I think he hit the sausage strip on the inside of turn 2, really unsettled the car. Through turn 5, and onto the first DRS straight, through turn 6, absolutely flat out. Looking at that 50 board, hard on the brakes for turn 7, Memorial Corner. It's the most prominent overtaking spot on the racetrack. We will see most of the overtaking done there. Heading through turn 9. And this little straightaway heading towards the infamous Singapore Sling. This used to be a notorious part of the racetrack. A short, sharp chicane used to be there. Was redesigned in 2013. Oh my God! Did you just see that? That was a massive lag spike, and it shunted him into the wall. I don't think that was driver error. I think that was a massive lag spike and put him in the wall just before the Anderson Bridge. We'll stay with Roscoe, but that is unbelievable. I haven't seen that before. And that wasn't a lag spike on my end. Sometimes, because we've got multinationals in this tier, it is the elite/global tier. Typically, from my end, when you're seeing drivers who come from Asia, from Europe, or from the Americas, you tend to get a little bit of lag as you do. But that he literally jumped into the wall. That wasn't just me seeing that. That actually happened to him. What in God's name was that? Extraordinary. Harry Tomato jumps to the top of the table, 1 minute 35.9. He's the quickest driver in the session thus far. Some drivers on medium compound tyres. iContrast is one of them. ACW is another. We're right on board with Contrast. And to those who are keenly watching, we might be able to see some of the differences between the medium and the soft compound tyre. There is quite an noticeable difference. I think he went rather deep there at turn 14. Now through 15 into turn 16. In this third sector, it's just this cascade of 90-degree corners. We're heading up to 18 underneath the grandstand, into turn 19 now. Then into turns 20 and 21. Then we got the final two corners on the racetrack, the very fast and technical turns 22 and 23. Up to the line, it's a 1 minute 35.5, a very respectable time from him, and Shuru as well on the medium compound tyre. To be second and third on the mediums is very, very well done. We can see here the Frenchman ACSC, a 1 minute 34.966. He's currently top of the tables, just over 6/10 clear of Shuru and P2. Next driver on their offline lap is ACW in the Williams, currently 10. I'm sure he'll jump up a few places once he sets his time. Let's see what he can do coming around the final two corners now. Bit of a lift, a bit of a dab on the brake through 23, hard on the accelerator out, and that is a bonkers lap time on the medium compound of tyre. 1 minute 34.665. He's 3/10 clear of ACSC, but what's even more astonishing is the fact that he's 3/10 clear on the mediums when the Frenchman did that time on the softs. That is absolutely ridiculous. My word, that is a different level lap time. I would love to see what he can do on the soft tyres towards the end of the session, but I don't think anyone will be qualifying on the softs, to be perfectly honest. With a field this small, with only 12 cars, there is an incredibly high chance that you'll be qualifying inside the top 10. So I have a guess that most of these drivers will be qualifying on the medium tyre. That way they have the medium to hard strategy available to them. I have seen, though, some drivers pull off a two-stop strategy. You have to be very, very fast, and in this sort of field where you've got top-level drivers, where they're constantly pushing to the max, it's very hard to go to that next level. So I have a feeling that most of these guys will probably do a one-stop strategy, minimize the time in the pit lane. And it is a bit of a long one here at Singapore, 60km/h speed limit, so you do spend a fair amount of time in the pits. A Star Is Born is going to be the next driver to set a flying lap. He too was on the medium compound, coming around the final two corners, using all of the curbs, staying to the right-hand side, looking for the 50 board, hard on the brakes, third gear. He had two cracks at the corner there. You could see him turn in and then reset just briefly, then go again. Hopefully he hasn't lost too much time with that. Through turn 5, fourth gear, using as much of the inside road as he can, just over the curve. That way he can cut the corner, minimise track distance, hopefully get a better lap time. He's apparently purple in the first sector, I don't believe that, and that's an invalidation right there. So his lap is done. He'll have to do another tour of the racetrack in order to set another. Who's the next driver to set a flyer? Looks like Rhythms, I believe. No, Shiru? He just did a time. He just did a 1 minute 34.9 on those medium tyres. 3-lap old mediums though. So those are going to be pretty scrubbed in at this stage. If he wants to start on those, he has to be aware of that. That these tyres will have a little bit of life taken out of them right at the beginning of the race. But Rhythms, the German, coming through turn 2 into turn 3. Second gear, third gear, using all of third, into fourth, fifth, through turn 4. That brief left-hander after 3, that's turn 4. Just there was turn 5. Heading towards turn 6 now, flat out, 8th gear. Aiming for that 50 board, there it is there, hard on the brakes. Third gear, well within the white lines. He could have exploited the track limits a little bit more, trying to find a little bit more time. It's a very well controlled first sector. Now heading towards the Singapore Sling, turn 10. Hard on the brakes, 4th gear. Then into turns 11 and 12. This is where Izzat lost it. Right at the beginning of qualifying, over the Anderson Bridge, into the hairpin of turn 13, 2nd gear. Using all of second, not quite, he short shifted just briefly there. I would have thought he short shifted earlier. Hard on the brakes for turn 14. Using as much of the exit as you can. You can see there his right hand tyres running right up towards the white line. Now turn 17. Oh, invalidates. He cut too much there. It was looking like a very clean lap there from Rhythms. See, they instantly went to 0. He's put it... Oh, no. He briefly went back into hot lap mode. Then he switched it back. Will he be going into the pits? Or doing another lap? These tyres are up to temperature, so it might be a wise thing to do another lap. And that's exactly what he's going to do. So just a tiny mistake. The game punishes him quite severely. See what he can do. See if he can improve at all. Very nice run through the first couple of corners. See what he can do here at turn 5. Uses as much as he can without invalidating. Took a very smooth line as well through turn 5. Through turn 6, 8th gear. Hard on the brakes for turn 7. Used a little bit more of the track limits there. Still, I feel like you could have used just a smidgen more. Through turn 9. Hard on the accelerator. This is at the Singapore Sling. 3rd gear this time round. Had to use an extra gear there to slow the car up. Find that little extra rotation. Into the hairpin. 2nd gear. Short shift there. 4th, 5th, 6th gear. 7th gear. Aiming at the 100 board. No, just after the 100 board. I aim at the 100 board. Alright, through 15. Into 16 and 17. This is where he made his mistake earlier. Doesn't make the same mistake. 4th gear, 5th gear. Underneath the grandstand at turn 18. Then into turn 19. The track narrows up just a little bit. You can tell with the DHL signage coming ever so much closer to that white line. Now the final 2 corners, 22 and 23, uses 5th gear briefly, up to the line. It's a 1 minute 34.8. It puts him P3 provisionally with 5 minutes and 15 seconds left in the session. So, with how long the outlap is here at Singapore, this will be about the time where drivers are preparing themselves for their final flying laps. The current pole sitter is ACSC with a 1 minute 34.207. He's 4/10 clear of ACW at this stage. And he's looking to start on that soft compound of tyre. Harry Tomato, he's got the softs on in the pits. Plebs, he's on a flying lap. Coming through the 3rd sector now. 21, coming up to turns 22 and 23. Massively sideways there. And he actually backs out of the lap completely. He did a 1:35.1. See they're messing up turn 21 there. and then making a bit of a meal of 22 and 23. Maybe he thought he would dive into the pits, but then second-guessed himself and decided to stay out, which invalidated his time. So he has to do another tour of the racetrack. And because he invalidated there, this lap is also invalidated, so this isn't a proper lap time. I hope he knows that, because he's got into mode 2. And you're not going to make it... Oh, you might make it back. Put on fresh tyres and go out again. It's going to be touch and go with how much time is left. Because like I said, the out lap and also the in lap here at Singapore is very, very long. You'll be pushing close to 2 minutes with each lap. So effectively a run will cost you about 6 minutes, which effectively gives you about 3 runs. Maybe 3 or 4 if you manage them well enough, because your final run, of course, doesn't require an in lap. It's just an out lap and a flying lap. So that takes out 2 minutes. Let's see. High contrast on a flyer. Right on board with the other YouTube megastar, shall we? We're right on board with the rhythms. We're right on board with high contrast. A Star is Born is retired in the pit lane. He's satisfied with provisional P5. Through turn 9 now goes high contrast. Let's compare some of the gears that the 2 YouTube megastars used. 4th gear, he used a bit more of the inside sort of area there at the Singapore Sling, over the Anderson Bridge into the hairpin. 1st gear, 2nd gear, that's very interesting. He uses the lowest gear possible, 1st gear, obviously. Find that extra rotation, and he's apparently purple in the 2nd sector. Into the 3rd sector, into the cascade of 90s that are turn 16, then turn 17, 3rd gear here, 4th gear, 5th gear, 6th, oh, not quite 6, he revved it out in 5th. Now into turns 20 and 21, try to use as much as the curb as he possibly can. The car got very loose there on the exit of 21, but he catches it well, up and over the start-finish line, and he doesn't improve. He does not beat his current lap time. He lost out by just under 0.03 of a second. Roscoe is not on a flyer. Plebs, I don't think he'll have enough time. Oh, it'll be so close. You'd have to cut something. There is no way you're going to make it. There is just no way. Not with a minute 30. You'd have to cut just about everything in order to get your lap time in. Got drivers on their final out laps. ACW on the medium compound as well. So he's set to start on those mediums. ACSC on the soft. Shiru, the McLaren, on the soft compound as well. And I don't think he's going to... Or maybe. He might make it. It's going to be close. Alex Pato as well. Yet to set a lap time. Neither has Players, I didn't see. Neither has G-Force Dre. Interesting. He's still in the pit lane. Roscoe Arm has retired from the session. He's had enough. He's satisfied with 8. ACW, the first of these drivers on a flying lap. Through the opening complex of turns 1, 2 and 3. Now through turn 4. Nice run here towards turn 5. Nice and wide entry. Try and open the corner up. Carry as much speed as possible. DRS open. Through turn 6. See that sector 1 split. Is he up or is he down? He's up by 0.06 of a second. Through turn 7. 4th gear. 5th gear. Into turn 8. 2nd. He'll short shift. 3rd gear. 4th. Now into turn 9. You use 3rd gear. Short shift. Back up into 4th. You use 3rd gear to get that extra rotation. Get the car straightened out as early as he possibly can. Through the Singapore Sling. Into turn 11. Now towards the Anderson Bridge. Sideways. Sideways again. His lap is done. He's not going to improve with that. He's lost about maybe 2 or 0.3 of a second with how sideways the car was. And he would have lost a little bit of tyre wear as well. Oh, he's up. You're joking. He's up by 0.1 of a second. Imagine if he didn't go completely sideways over the bridge. That would have been an awesome second sector, but And that's still awesome because he's up on his time. That's an astonishing feat. Oh, sideways again. This car is loose at the moment. Very oversteery. Third gear. Fourth gear. Car still sliding a little bit through the final two corners of 22 and 23. And up and towards the line. It's a 1:34.577. He does improve just a little bit. He's going to try and hang on to P2. And I think he will do so. ACSC, our current pole setter, is looking to improve his time. He's up by 2/10. He's looking at a 33 at this stage. Through the final two corners, sixth gear, and up and towards the line, it's a 1:33.9. I think I just saw briefly there as that ends the qualifying here at Singapore. Not a bad quali session there, as we can see there, 1 minute 33.916. That is your pole time for the Singapore Grand Prix. He is 6/10 clear over ACW, but remember ACW on the medium compound of tyre, so you kind of expect them to be about half a second slower. Rhythms in P3, he'd be pretty happy with that being towards the front of the field on the medium compound as well. Shearer in P4 also on the mediums. The Star is Born in 5th on the mediums. Contrast in 6th on the mediums. Harry Tomato in 7th on the softs. Alex Parto in 8th on the mediums. Roscoe Arm in 9th on the softs. Jay Plevs and Isaac Kush, after his incident at on the first lap at turn 12 just before the Anderson Bridge, will start from the back of the grid with a lot of work to do. No sign of rain at this stage. Oh, hello, Pride. Oh, of course, Global's on. So, yeah. Blair would have started a party. So, drivers will be deciding what kind of strategies they want to go with. A lot of them are starting on the medium compound tyre, which suggests to me that they're going to do a medium to hard sort of race. They might do a two-stop, maybe a medium soft medium, or maybe a medium soft, I'm not sure. If there's a safety car thrown into the mix, that will shake everything up as well. But I think in this sort of tier where the drivers are so close to each other and they're so incredibly fast, I think minimizing time in the pit lane is probably going to be a very important thing. So these guys will most likely be trying to do a one-stop strategy from mediums to hards, and trying desperately not to get any wing damage. That will be a very, very important thing, because losing 5 seconds in the pit lane because of wing damage is going to be very costly, particularly in a competitive group like this. Even with only 12 cars, it will cost you a few positions. Looking at tyres, interesting. Look at the bottom of the field. That is very, very interesting to see. You can see all the drivers starting on the tyre they qualified on in the top 10. Outside of that though, G-Force Dre, after not setting a lap time, will be starting in P10 on the hard compound tyres. So is Plevs, and so is Isaac Kush. These drivers having a free choice of tyre, of course, all electing to start on the hards, not on the mediums, not on the softs, the hards. We saw this work in Pacific Tier 3. It was a race that I commentated in, where the people who finished first and second did the alternate hard to medium strategy. And those two were Kickbutt Kiwi and this man, G-Force Dre, after qualifying 8th, being on that alternate strategy, able to run long at the beginning, and having that clear air in that sort of mid-phase of the race, allowed him to finish second overall at the end of the Tier 3 Singapore Grand Prix. So the alternate hard to medium strategy can work if, and it's a big if, you don't get damage. We know with street circuits it's stupidly easy to get wing damage. It's so easy to knock off an end plate. It's up to these guys to just manage themselves, try not get damage, and perhaps try and not rush themselves too much at the beginning of the race. Just let things fall into place, get into a rhythm, and, you know, get the job done. And I think we'll see these guys right up towards the front of the field towards the end. But the drivers are now lining back up into their respective grid slots, and we'll get this race underway. We'll just be waiting on Izzat Kush to line up into his respective grid slot. There we go. There's a predicted tyre stop strategy. I reckon a lot of drivers will be doing that bottom one, the one stop. So the pit window about lap 12 to lap 18 according to that graphic. But here we go. Under lights here at Singapore, we have 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go. ACSC, I imagine, gets a magnificent start. He does on that soft compound tyre. He's able to pull away. Side by side through turn 1, go to midfield. Just trying to give each other position. The Hairy Tomato cutting the track a little bit. Just trying not to rejoin dangerously. It was very good by him. The McLaren and Ferrari side by side. Shiro and Rhythms coming close together at turn 5. And perhaps into the wall went that McLaren. It looked like he almost did. But he's up into P3. Shiro with a good start. Rhythms down 1. He won't be too disappointed with that. Oh, look at it. Side by side, side by side. They go into turn 7, 2 by 2. Into turn 8. They're still side by side. That's contrast. And Roscoe Arm sideways some more. He's going to lose 3 positions with that. Oh, no, he only lost 2 positions. He's now side by side with Plebs into the Singapore sling. Oh, this isn't going to end well, is it? Oh, Roscoe Arm forced out wide a little bit, but they had to go out wide. That's what happens when you go side by side through that section. And Roscoe Arm, a shocking start there, down 2 positions, just getting bullied by the people around him, it seemed. But ACSC, as you kind of expect on that soft compound tyre, getting a good start. He's taken the initiative and he's trying to pull away. It's good stuff here. ACW critically is in second. He's leading this pack. He can control the drivers behind, hopefully. If he's got good enough car speed, he should be able to hold that second place. Shiro in P3, Rhythms in 4th, A Star is Born still in 5th place. The biggest winner from the start of this race is easily Izzat Kush, up 3 positions up into 9th place as the leaderboard proceeds to have a bit of a fit, as it tends to do on the second lap of every race. Through turn 3 go the field, as you can see that Izzat. Nice start on those hard tyres, making up positions. He needs to try and keep that momentum, but keep it clean as well. It's also a very, very important thing. We'll take a look at the leader. Oh, hopefully the leaderboard fixes itself. There we go. Hopefully the intervals will soon fix itself. It looks like a gap of about 1.4 seconds. There we go. So ACSC taking the initiative, opening that gap. He needs to continue to open it while these soft tyres are still good. At the moment it's a nice long train here coming through the second sector. No one quite close enough to make a move just yet. Coming into the hairpin. Oh, and into the wall. Hairy Tomato. Bit too early trying to take the apex there. Should have waited just a little bit longer. Just collected the wall on the inside. Thankfully though, no damage from what I can see on that car. Everyone making their way through the third sector now. Everyone line astern. Roscoe Arm already 2 laps into a 31 lap race has got a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Hairy Tomato a 3-second time penalty as well. So we might see those play their part in this race. If the field remains this close, we'll definitely see them play their part. Very wide Izzat in the background as DRS is now enabled. Looking towards the front, Shiro is not giving up on this battle for second place. He is still within a second of ACW. He'll have DRS here, heading towards turn 6. Is that gap closing though? Yeah, it is a little bit, but not by much, as much as you probably think with DRS. Into turn 7. And now it appears that the medium tyres are starting to switch on and the softs are starting to switch off, because ACW is now starting to gain on the Frenchman of ACSC. It's now under a second between the top 2. Looking a bit behind, Contrast is right in behind the Hairy Tomato, further suggesting that the soft tyres are already switched off. Only 3 laps into this race. Right on board with Contrast. There's Alex Pato and Izzat Kush just in behind. I failed to mention that we have a new DRS zone on this circuit. From 13 to 14 there's now a DRS zone. I don't think in 2019 we had that. I don't think we did anyway. I'm pretty sure we didn't. But yeah, that's a new feature to the current racetrack, that third DRS zone. And it makes turn 14 a far more viable overtaking spot on the racetrack. Oh, Tomato understeering a little bit. Just a little bit. You can see that contrast, just able to take the line that he wants. Tomato not really taking the curbs as aggressively as he should. DRS open, overtake mode engaged. He might have a look here, contrast down the inside into turn 1. Oh, and slightly overshoots it, but he gets the job done. Commanding move there, he takes P6. What about the drivers behind? Alex and Izzat right in behind. Now, Tomato will get DRS here. Overtake mode engaged for Alex. See there, both drivers just lagging a hint. Through turn 6, Tomato, he doesn't go defensive. Into turn 7, they both go deep. Oh, and that's great driving from Tomato to hold it around the outside, to have such bravery under brakes. And enough trust on the driver on the inside to not clatter into your side pod as well. A great deal of skill and respect showing there. But again, those soft tyres really starting to switch off. You can see here Tomato is just holding up the drivers behind, causing a bit of a train. Alex into the hairpin. Not the most ideal overtaking spot. Oh, was that contact? I don't think so. I think he just lost it by himself. It just seemed like contact. But you can see there, Alex sideways at the exit of 13. Through 14. Heading towards 15 and 16. Very much followed the leader stuff through here. Look at that layer of rubber at the apex, just before the apex rather, of turn 16. A lot of drivers locking up through there. Underneath the grandstand once again. Now, will Alex try and do this, perhaps a similar move as what Contrast did just a lap prior through the final 2 corners? Alex right in behind the Alpha, very wide. He slid. Thank you, Brian. Goes to the inside into turn 1. Gets the job done. He's up into P7. Oh, and is that? What a brilliant bit of race car craft there. That hole left by Alex allowed Izzat to shoot past his teammate almost instantaneously there. And he had just enough skill to not clatter into his teammate, get the job done, and also to keep momentum. He hasn't lost time to Alex at all. Maybe a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 tenths, but oh, as he proceeds to understeer at turn 9, as I'm giving him a massive rap. Oh dear me. Tell you what, we'll have a look at the leaders because this is starting to develop now. These soft tyres are probably dead. That would be my diagnosis there for ACSC in regards to his pace. Those soft tyres are pretty much dead. He'd be on the radio to the Renault version of Bono saying that my tyres are dead. I think it depends on what kind of strategy he wants to go with. Is he doing a 1-stop? Is he doing a 2-stop? If he's doing a 2-stop, he should be pitting about now. Get rid of the soft tyres. Get on the mediums as early as you can. Stop screwing around with the soft tyre. If he's doing a 1-stop, if he's going from soft to hard, we'll see him stay out for as long as he humanly can on those tyres. And considering pretty much everyone else around him is also doing the 1-stop strategy, he's actually, this is the current position he's holding. He is actually in the lead. This is a proper battlefield position. This isn't going to be fought through strategy. It has to be fought on the racetrack as these two are really starting to fight through turn 8. Oh, a bit of contact there, and here comes Charu around the outside at turn 9. He slots himself now into 2nd place. See that bit of biffing and banging there. Oh, and Rhythm's really censored at the Singapore sling. A bit of a desperate move, but an understandable one at that. You know, on the medium compound tyre, it's clearly the better tyre right now. if he stayed any longer behind the Renault, he would lose touch to the top two. So it's quite understandable why he sent it there. Fortunate enough that both drivers gave each other space, and Rhythms, with that move down the inside, he made sure he didn't collect ACSC in the process, as Sharu gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That's going to play a part for this battle for the lead, considering all of the top three are on the same strategy. So that just introduces another hurdle for the McLaren to jump over. As into the pits, yep, into the pits. Now what is he doing? It looks like a one-stop. Onto the hard compound. Okay, here we go. So he effectively gets an undercut on the medium runners on fresh tyres. Will those hards be quicker? Maybe. Roscoe Arm and Harry Tomato are on medium compound tyres, meaning they have to make another pit stop at some stage. Oh, has ACSC spun it? I think he has. At the exit of the pits. My word. How on earth? Perhaps tagged the inside wall. Did he get a warning or a penalty or anything for that? Go down here. Cross the pit lane, exit white line, he got a warning for it. Perhaps he hit the inside fence at turn 1. I've done that before. I'm not afraid to admit that. And it does rotate the car somewhat when you hit a rear tyre on the hit a rear tyre on the tyre barrier on the inside. Going back up here, shall we? Battle for 5th place. Contrast. Pato. Isaac Kush and Plebs. 4-way fight for 5th place. Making their way around the final 2 corners. Alex will get DRS. There we go. He didn't activate it there. As soon as I look back, he did activate it. There's Isaac just in behind on those hard tyres. Pleb's doing a good job to keep up with him. He needs to try and keep up with Izzat. That's his main rival in regards to the battle towards the race. Rhythms and Shiro side by side through turn 7. Rhythms is now into 2nd place through turn 8. Now the rest of the racetrack, it's pretty difficult to get a move done. The best place to overtake is probably turn 14. I reckon Shiro will just step in behind just for a little bit. Hopefully Rhythms has enough car speed to try and catch up to ACW. We might be able to see a battle for the lead once again. Go back to this, shall we? Over the Anderson Bridge into the hairpin. You can see there's 2 different lines there from those 2 drivers. High contrast stayed on the left hand side of that white line. You can see Alex, he shifted the car quite fiercely to the right hand side, try and open up the hairpin as much as he possibly can, because corner exit speed is pretty important, particularly if you're trying to get a move done heading towards turn 14. Now he's coming through the 3rd sector. Does Alex have a run here? In fact, no, he's going into the pits. Is that a 3-second time penalty? Oh, gee whiz. That was close. So what is Alex up to? What is he going to do? Is he going onto the hards? No, it's another set of mediums. I like this. This is ballsy, and I like it. So what he's doing is a 2-stop strategy. What it means then, he's now got clear air. That's the first important thing. He's got a lot of clear air. The second important thing is he's now got a license to push as hard as he possibly can. Then he'll go onto the soft compound right at the end of the race. Now this can work out. He's just in behind AC, who was battling for the lead, remember. But also AC made that mistake at the pit exit, so I imagine that's actually 5th place once the pit stop rotations come around. I think that's about 5th, roughly. Izzat's now found his way up into 5th place, overtaking High Contrast. See here, it seems like the hard tyres have switched on and the mediums have started to switch off. Plebs is all over the back of High Contrast, heading through the 3rd sector underneath the grandstand for the 9th time. Will Contrast just let his teammate by? I reckon he probably should, as ACWs and Rhythms and Shiro are in the pits. Oh dear, and the McLaren gets a 5-second penalty as well. Rhythms, what are you up to? You're on the hard tyres. What about ACW? What are you doing? You're on the hard tyres as well. The McLaren also on the hard. So they're pitting quite early. They're all copying each other. They don't want to overcut or undercut one another. You can see there, see that yellow dot coming through turn 22 now? That would say CSC. He was battling with these three. Remember, that mistake has cost him so much time. So that position there that Alex is in is actually 4th place. I was 1 place off. So Alex, what he now needs to try and do is catch up to the cars in front, because Harry Tomato makes a brief mistake there, causing a brief yellow. He needs to catch up and try and pass the drivers in front, try and build up a bit of a gap, then get onto the soft tyres and go to the end of the race. It'll be very interesting to see how the Italian plays himself out in this race. And if there's a safety car, that will really shake things up quite a bit, actually. It will shake things up quite a bit. As expected, Plebs now pass High Contrast. I don't think he would have put up too much of a fight. Plebs, of course, his teammate, and also Plebs is battling Izzat Kush. Now 2 seconds in front, so he's lost a little bit of time, but not too much. He's still within touching distance of the Alfa Romeo. Speaking of which, he's right in behind this Haas of A Star Is Born, electing to go out 1 extra lap. Is he going to continue to stay out? He is. So Izzat has to properly pass him. DRS open. He's not using overtake. He is now. And then he switched it off once again. I reckon he's going to make a move into turn 7 as High Contrast dives into the pits. And he's probably going to change on to the hard compound of tyre. Now through turn 5, 4th gear, 5th gear. I reckon he might get his move done here. Gaining. Needs to commit to that inside line, really send it. He does. Bit of contact there at the apex. Nothing too harsh there. And Izzat now takes the lead of this race. You can see there, Izzat was a bit assertive at turn 7. He needed to be. You could tell that he was being held up. He lost about maybe a second when he was in behind A Star Is Born. So Plebs, if A Star Is Born decides to stay out another lap, will probably need to be as assertive as Izzat was at turn 7. Not much else going on, it seems. Drivers are still relatively close together. I'll turn to some of the battles that are going on in just a moment. That gap between 3rd and 1st place, about 2.1 seconds, and that's steadily increasing. What does the Haas do? Is he going in? He is. Through the final 2 corners goes Plebs. He takes 2nd place, and his battle with Izzat now resumes. The gap is 2.4 seconds between the top 2. Hopefully Plebs can try and keep up with him at the very least, try and not fall back. But even better if he can try and catch up to Izzat, really put the fight to him for this position in the race. Casually vibing in 3rd is G4 Stray. He's got 5.7 seconds to the car in front and 10 seconds to the car behind, which turns out to be his teammate. Those drivers can go to the end of the race, whereas these guys cannot. Speaking of which, these three sort of doing their own thing. Not quite close enough to battle just yet. Alex Parto, 2.2 seconds to Charu. Revving glitch for someone. Who is it? I could hear that. Oh, it's Alex, dearie me. Oh, and into the wall, I reckon. And no damage, thankfully. These guys are relatively close to each other. Roscoe, A Star Is Born, ACSC, Harry Tomato, and High Contrast all bunched up quite nicely for the battle for P8. Roscoe leading said pack around turn 13. Star Is Born just in behind on fresh hard compound tyres. The mediums should be better. They're only 4 laps old, but about lap, maybe lap 7, perhaps lap 6, those fresh hard tyres should be a bit better. See here, Contrast right in behind Tomato. And ACSC could not believe his wretched luck after spinning out that pit exit. He was up towards the provisional top 3, which was ACW, Rhythms and Charu. He's now down here battling with Tomato and Contrast for 10th place for that one singular point, and all of these drivers can go to the end except for Tomato. It'll be interesting to see what he does. I'm guessing he's just praying for a safety car at this stage. Plenty of people watching, that's good to see. But now we're getting into this sort of typical Singapore behaviour where the field starts to spread out just a little bit. Oh, we can see some assertive stuff here. Tomato down the inside into turn 8. Oh, and almost into the wall, but he pulls it up. Side by side still into 9. Perhaps Renault can get a switch back here. He does. He's got the power down. He's a Frenchman. He is. He's using overtake. Down the inside into the Singapore sling. They're still side by side into turn 11. This will be a good view. Contact between ACSC and Harry Tomato over the Anderson Bridge and into the hairpin of turn 13. Tomato will try and get a switch back. That's a very nice line taken there by the Alfa Romeo. But both cars have DRS. Both cars using overtake. They basically nullify themselves there. And Harry Tomato can't take advantage of the switchback. He's still stuck in 12th place, having to do another pit stop at some stage. Sector 3, yellow flags. What's that? It's Alex. Look how much time he's lost. He's now down 7 seconds, and he's got wing damage as well. He'll have to come in and get that replaced. Thankfully, he's got a set of hard tyres available, so he'll be able to go onto those and go to the end of the race. But it's put his original two-stop strategy to bed. There's the hard tyre. I imagine it's a hard tyre. There it is, yep. See, that's the problem with using the hard tyres at the beginning of the race. If you get damaged, you have to keep going with it. You can't pit and go onto new tyres, otherwise you end up with Alex's situation where you're about 20 odd seconds behind because you did an additional pit stop to try and get your wing replaced. So yeah, for those drivers like Izzat, Plebs and GeForce Grey, if they got damaged at the beginning of the race, their race would have been absolutely screwed over. Rhythms and Charu are having a bit of a scrap here for P5. The McLaren looking feisty, stuck his nose out. He's just suggesting to the German, I'm right here, mate. Ready to take advantage of any mistake you make. Look at that massive amount of rubber there. Even I use no assist, and I don't typically lock up through there, but a lot of drivers are tonight. Just layering this massive carpet of rubber at turn 16. Oh, sure, not a very good run through here. He's lost time. Just a little bit of time. Opens DRS. Gap is 7/10 of a second. Now 8/10 of a second. Roscoe, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. That's his second one, if I'm not mistaken. Tomato gets one as well, as they're in a titanic battle for 9th. But at the very least, it's a titanic battle. Tomato still hanging on to the back of these two. Doing a good job. Oh, right towards the wall. And here comes Contrast. He's got momentum, he's got DRS, he's got no ERS though. He's going to look around the outside, I reckon, here at Memorial Corner. Can't get the job done. ACSC does a good job defending his position. Stays in 9th for now. Oh, and sideways, Tomato. Oh my word. He's not liking these conditions. Struggling just a little bit. Hopefully he can gather himself up. Keep up with the two in front. Hopefully continue the battle for position. Shiro in the McLaren. Still on the back of Rhythms in the Ferrari. Leaders have just begun lap 16. We've finally hit the halfway mark. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, this race is easily the longest in the championship. Very, very long one. As Dre's in. Dre is in. Why is he in so early? Don't see drivers come in this early and do a one-stop strategy. Is he repairing a wing? No. He's gambling is what he's doing. He's on the medium compound tyre. Right, so this is where my experience in previous races come into play. I know these medium tyres can do, how many laps was it? 19? I think. It was about 19 laps and I got to about 75-ish% on one of the tyres. It was within puncture territory. But I noticed with the tyres that with about 3 or 4 laps to go, they really start to drop off. So ideally, if you're on the medium tyre, the longest you want to stretch them is about 15 to 16 laps. And that's how much G-Force Dre has to do on those tyres. So it's a gamble from Dre, but it might be a good gamble. It might work out, as Eye Contrast has overtaken ACSC for 8th place. And look at that, he's starting to pull away already. Tomato right in behind, and there's Dre in 11th. Now remember, his fellow hard runners, as he makes almost a double overtake happen. Not quite. Still side by side with the Alfa Romeo, and he gets by. Dre was about 5 or so seconds behind Izzat and Plebs. So I expect those two to be in about P7, perhaps P6, somewhere in that region, when they come in to make their stops. It's just a matter of when do they make their stops. Here comes G-Force Dre overtaking ACSC with absolute ease. That's the benefit of a fresher tyre with more grip. Just able to power past. He's now into 9th place. Around turn 4. His next target is Eye Contrast. That's for P8. Looking forward. Star is Born and Roscoe Arm currently battling as the Harry Tomato comes into the pit lane. He'll be going on to another set of mediums. Oh, he started on the softs. Right. So he'll be going to the end of the race on those tyres. He's got 11.3 seconds to catch up to Alex, who's on 2-lap-old hards, so he should be quicker. But it's going to be a difficult task to try catch up to him. And he also has time penalties as well, which definitely doesn't help. But he needs to stay optimistic. He needs to keep running, because if there's a safety car at any stage, it will throw him a massive bone. It will give him an opportunity to try and score points. So it's important for him to keep going. Star is Born and Roscoe Arm making their way through the 3rd sector. Roscoe Arm on 9-lap-old medium compound of tyres. I reckon he'll be pitting relatively soon. We'll just have another look at Race Director. He's done soft to medium, so I reckon he will be pitting relatively soon. As the Star is Born cutting turn 1, as we saw just then, getting a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. G-Force Dre setting a new fastest lap. ACSC into the pits. What's this guy up to? He's probably going to go on to another set of mediums. Wing damage as well. So he wasn't just fed up with the hard compound tyre, he actually had wing damage and needed to come in. And that promotes Alex Parto into the top 10 and gives Harry Tomato someone to battle with, it seems. As Roscoe gets overtaken by A Star Is Born. Roscoe drops to 7th overall. Shiro still hanging on to the back of the Ferrari of Rhythms. The gap is just over 1 second. See him scraping the ground there, and also a nice revving glitch. It's great to hear. You always know it's a Codemasters game when you hear that. But Isbat and Plevs are still running. The gap between the top two is a fairly massive 7 seconds. They're going to try and stretch their stints out for as long as they can, it seems. Rhythms gets a 3-second time penalty. Perhaps cutting turn 2 from the looks of things. Turn 22. There's a 20 in front of that. Anyway, I'll just quickly check penalties between these two because I reckon they're going to still be in the fight at the end of this race. And he actually got 2 warnings on 1 lap, dearie me. And that's given him 3 seconds. Shiru, oh dear lord, he's got 6... that 5 second wouldn't be served, so he has 11 seconds worth of pens next to his name. That's quite unfortunate for this battle. Now Dre is caught onto the back of High Contrast. These two had a fair old scrap at the last race I commentated for this tier at Spa, where Dre absolutely sent it at the bus stop chicane. It was, I believe it was a fair move, as well, it's the last lap. There was a door open, Dre went for it. There was a bit of contact granted, but it wasn't anything malicious. Just Dre going for the position, and he got it in the end. So these two, they know each other, they know how they scrap. And I don't think Dre will be mucking around either, because he knows he's on fresh tyres. The longer he stays in behind Contrast, the worse off he'll be. Development, Pledge is in the pits, one of the leaders. So he's going to go on to the medium compound of tyre and go to the end of the race. ACW now takes 2nd place, Rhythm into 3rd, Shiru into 4th. He's actually lost a lot of time. Look at that, 3.1 seconds, 3.2 seconds between those two. Here comes Pledge, he comes out, A Star Is Born overtakes him, so does Roscoe Arm, but Roscoe Arm needs to make another stop. So theoretically, Izzat should come out in front of these two, roughly in 4th place. And ACW, Rhythms and Shiru should take 1st, 2nd and 3rd at this stage, with about 12 laps to go. Dre still in behind Contrast, gap is closing though. Right on board as the Frenchman ACSC does a 1 minute 38.759 new fastest lap through turn 9. Heading towards the Singapore sling, not too many overtaking opportunities here. It's all about trying to make up as much time as you can. Rather being this close and the dirty air affecting you so much, it's about not losing as much time as possible. Two behind her having a scrap though. Battle for the positions just outside of the points, P11 and P12. It's good to see they're still having a fair old scrap though. Hopefully they'll continue all the way throughout the race, the rest of the race. Star Is Born and Plevs. And Izzat stays out another lap. Shiru, a 5-second penalty. He's retired. What is that for? Oh, I don't understand. You're well in the points. He's left the session? What is this? Race director. He had another penalty. No, that was just a 5-second penalty for speeding he got on that lap. I don't understand. Perhaps he had to go off and do something? Maybe? I like to be optimistic and say that's what it was. He didn't just quit. Because he was in a point scoring position. That was looking like a very, very solid result for Shiru and the McLaren. I hope it was just him just needing to go off and do something. I hope that's the case. Not in this tier. I don't think drivers in this tier just give up like that. But now Plebs has got completely clear traffic. Look at that. Clear road in front of him. He's just able to put the hammer down, really set some quick lap times, and hopefully catch up to this man. Provisionally P2. Is that he's still going. 21 laps on those hard tyres. He's trying to stretch to a soft stint, which I think is not a very smart thing to do. Those soft tyres cooked themselves after 3 laps. They can last, that's no problem, but they cooked themselves after 3. Plebs at 37.8. That's what he's trying to do. Is that trying to stretch to a soft stint? Or perhaps praying to the gods that the safety car comes out? Oscar Arm in the pits onto a set of medium compounded tyres. Dre still in behind Contrast. Contrast doing a hell of a job staying in front. But I personally just try and avoid the soft tyre around here because it really does cook itself. So he's either doing that or just praying for a safety car to come out. With the field, Alex has retired in the pits as well. Oh dear me. Keep going, fellas, you never know. Like, it may only seem like, oh, there's 10 laps to go, might as well give up now. 10 laps of Singapore, 10 pretty long laps. Keep going. Don't give up. Never give up. You just never know. Izzat is still going. 23 laps on those tyres, and he's still going. Monumental stint. And that's promoted these two back into the points, ACSC and Harry Tomato. And they're properly scrapping it out for 9th as well. They want that extra point. It's fantastic to watch. Does Tomato have damage? No, Tomato doesn't have damage. DQ for pins? No. You only get DQ'd once you hit about 30 odd seconds worth of pins. And it's a proper DNF. He retired in the pits. He voluntarily retired in the pits. If he DSQ'd, it would have come up with instead of DNF as it has on the leaderboard, it would come up with DSQ. So he either had to attend something that was urgent and needed his attention, or he gave up, or something along those lines. I hope he didn't just give up. But yeah, Tomato doesn't have damage, it appears. Hopefully he can keep that fight alive between himself and ACSC. But is that still going? Surely he pits now. When they cross the line, it'll be 8 laps to go. Yep, he's going in. So he'll go onto the soft compound tyre, I feel like. That's his plan, but those softs will cook themselves. Trying to manage tyre temperatures with those soft tyres are a bloody nightmare. Yep, there we go. See their red sidewall. But I guess in his position, what does he have to lose? So he's actually in 3rd place. Here comes Plebs. There's Izzat, who comes out in front here. Plebs really sends it into 1, and he gets 3rd place. A slight undercut, pitting 3 laps earlier on the medium tyre, has paid massive dividends. Now Izzat is right in behind, and he will have DRS, and he'll be looking to attack GeForce Dre, getting a 3-second time penalty. Into turn 7, Izzat will be able to brake so much deeper. He'll be able to take corners so much quicker. But if Plebs is smart, if he can put the car in just the right place, perhaps, and it is a bit of a long shot, but perhaps he might be able to hold Izzat at bay. Heading towards the Singapore Sling, turns 10. Now turns 11 and 12, coming towards the Anderson Bridge. Hard on the brakes for the hairpin first gear, short shifts to second. Plebs desperate to find that extra rotation so he could get on the power earlier. Is that just gesturing to Plebs, just moving outside of the racing line? I'm right here, I'm ready. Here we go through the third sector. You can see here. Oh, this could be nasty. Ooh. It's very smart by Izzat. Just pull out. Wait for a DRS zone to come around. Now through the final 2 corners on the racetrack. You'll have DRS. You'll have ERS as well to play with. Plebs goes defensive into turn 1, side by side, potentially contact, but no. There might have been a hint of contact, but no damage from what I can see. But Izzat is now into 3rd place. His next target is Rhythms, and there he is in the what's the word I'm looking for? Foreground, that's it. Foreground of the shot. BSR Roscoe on a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. So Izzat will be massively faster than Rhythms on the next 3 or so laps. He will reel him in at a rate of knots. Keep an eye on that interval, 2.1 seconds. Sector 1, yellow flags, it's a hairy tomato. Just briefly making a mistake. He's still going though. He has got damage now, broken end plate, but he's still up for points simply because he's still running. Benefits are still running. Keep going, just keep going, never ever give up. Always a good thing to learn. Now towards the final 2 corners, and already Izzat is within a second, but he wasn't within a second at the DRS detection zone. Look at that fastest lap. 1 minute 36.373 through turn 2, then turn 3. You can see there, just able to take the corners so much quicker. So much quicker. Oh, dearie me. Rhythms is a sitting duck compared to this guy on this tyre. And there's absolutely no fight at all. Rhythms is into P2, setting a purple first sector while he's at it. Now it's not all said and done for Rhythms, because there's a guy in the Mercedes-Benz who's knocking on his door. Only 2.2 seconds behind as this man plays, and he's on 10 lap, fresher tyres. He'd be looking to launch an assault on the German, try and take that 3rd place. But even more interesting still, if these tyres can hold up for the rest of the race, can Izzat Kush launch an attack for the win? Now, like I said, these tyres will be good for about 3 or 4 laps, and they'll start to drop off quite a bit. It'll be interesting to see, very, very interesting to see, if he is capable of catching and then overtaking ACW. Meanwhile, Plebs is within a second of the German. Through turn 22 and then 23, he'll have DRS. He's gaining just a little bit at a time. He won't be close enough this time round unless Rhythms makes a mistake. At the moment he's in a good place, the Ferrari driver. From riding on board with Plebs, it's looking like he's nailing his marks. Not understeering, just hitting the apex as well. DRS open. He is gaining, but again, not quite close enough. He might be close enough next time round. See how much time he gains in the braking zone, simply because he has fresher tyres. He's able to brake deeper, able to take the corner quicker. Massive benefits with fresher tyres. Rhythms, he's got a lot of work to do to try and hold this guy at bay. Of course, I'll have a look at penalties and whatnot, see how they'll play a part in this race. But now Izzat, look at this, 1.5 seconds between the top two. When they cross the line, there'll be 4 laps to go. 4 laps, they're not quick laps here at Singapore. Very long laps, a lot of racing to go. Ooh, understeering there from Izzat, missing the curb completely. Flair's right in behind. But Izzat, keep an eye on the DRS detection zone. It's just before 22, it's 1.2 seconds. Now it's 1.1, is he within? Not quite, he was a 10th out. But he will be within 1 second of the leader, coming towards turn 5, surely. Through turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, the left-hander. Plevs is now right in this as well. So we're right on board with these two. See how much time Izzat gains. He'll get DRS. He's got a little bit of overtake to play with as well. What about ACW? He has a little bit more to play with. He's not quite close enough to make an overtake happen. But here we go. The battle for third place. Plevs, where's he going to look around the outside? He can brake deeper. Can he hold it there? No, he can't. Can he get a switchback? No, he can't. Rhythms hangs on to third place for now. Back up to the leading duo. Heading towards the Singapore Sling. 4th gear. Through turn 11. Turn 12 over the bridge. Into the hairpin. Turn 13. It's a nice exit. Unfortunately, the straight isn't quite long enough to properly allow for overtaking. You need to be right in behind someone in order to make an overtake happen through there. Same with Pledge, he's not quite close enough to make it stick either. Underneath the grandstand. Turn 18. Turn 19. Turns 20 and 21. What will Izzat do? Will he go for it now? Will he wait until turn 7? DRS open. ACW gesturing to go defensive. You can see that, no overtake used. No overtake used. He's waiting. He's going to be patient with this. He's not going to rush this overtake. He's going to do it here. Plebs, he's probably doing the same. Into turn 5. Opens DRS, uses overtake. Same with ACW. ACW is going to have to go defensive here, surely. He does. Oh, the big squeeze here, side by side through turn 7. Izzat Kush takes the lead of the Singapore Grand Prix. And now, he's got 3 laps to try and pull away as much as he can. What are the penalties between the top 2? Let's have a look. And also Rhythms has held on to 3rd place in all of that. Oh, I don't know what kind of penalties he's got. He's got 2 invalidated lap times. What does that mean? He's got 4 warnings. 4 warnings and no pen. So he might have 2 penalties, maybe? What about ACW? Typical ACW, he doesn't have anything next to his name. Rhythms, I know he has a pen. He does. He's got 1 extra warning. Plevs. Oh, he's got 2 warnings. So he's sitting on a nice edge. Plevs. He knows if he pushes too hard somewhere, he'll get another penalty. He'll get a penalty, and that puts these 2 on even ground. So although Plebs has the upper hand in terms of time penalty, he knows as soon as he goes over the edge, they're on even ground. And that's going to be in the back of his mind. He knows, I just have to drive behind him. I don't have to do anything. Oh, that's bound to be a warning there, surely. Is that Kush a 3-second time penalty? Multiple warnings? Surely. Let's have a look at what it says. Is it an invalidated lap time? No, that's a penalty. So what are those 2? What are those invalidated laps? What's there? Is that a penalty? Is that a warning? I do not know. But at the moment, Isaac Kush has now got 3 seconds, and the gap is only 1.1 with 2 laps to go. Rhythms is doing a mega job hanging on to this 3rd place. But it's, well, Plevs has now done 9 laps on those medium tyres. So, oh, Roscoe Armin. He's going to put on some soft tyres, sneaky devil. He's going to try and get fastest lap. As I was talking about earlier, 9-lap-old mediums mean that those medium tyres are about to switch off. They'll be getting close to switching off soon. So it's going to become more and more difficult for Plebs to try and overtake Rhythms. Perry Tomato, 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. He's down in 10th place, lining himself up for a point. But it's going to be down to the wire between these two. Isaac Kush and ACW. 1.4 seconds separate the two. Isaac, I know 100% has a 3-second time penalty. At least. He might have more, but he has 3 seconds. By contrast, getting a 3-second time penalty. ACW has nothing, so he needs to be 2.999 seconds behind or lower, and he can take the win of this race. If it's any greater than that, then Isaac Kush will take victory. The gap is now 1.6 seconds. They're coming towards the end of the first sector, so they're 33% of the way through the lap. Gap is now 1.7. He needs to find another 1.3 over the course of the lap, and I can assure you, both drivers will know this and be pushing like madmen. Plevs is right in behind the Ferrari, looking left, right and centre to try and get past, but he knows he's got the position so long as he doesn't get a penalty. But if he does, it's game on. Oh, that is close too. You can see there with the aerial shot, he was millimetres away from getting a warning there, surely. Gap is 1.5. It's not enough here from Isaac. Those soft tyres are dying off quite quickly, it seems. But this man is putting on a charge on the final lap. In fact, he's gaining time on the Alfa Romeo. What a charge from HCW right at the death. Isaac, quite simply, it's been a superb drive from you, mate. From 12th on the grid to be leading at the end is quite an achievement, but ACW was the cleaner driver today. Izzat will cross the line first, but it's ACW who takes victory. Izzat had 6 seconds, so one of those invalidated times was a penalty. Rhythms will cross the line in 3rd, but Plevs, on 2 warnings, he manages to not get a 3rd and those extra 3 seconds. He will claim 3rd place away from the German, who also had a fairly spectacular drive. He did very, very well to hang on to that 3rd place for as long as he did. Star is Born crosses the line in 5th, but gets overtaken by iContrast at the line. Mercedes driver will get 5th place. Star is Born in 6th. ACSC, after that mistake at the pit exit, cost him so much time, but he'll be fairly relieved with 7th place, I imagine. At least scoring something. GeForce Dre in 8th. Roscoe on. He's on fresh tyres. Keep an eye on that time. Fastest lap at the moment, 1 minute 36.373. Keep an eye on that time. He's trying to get it. Around the final 2 corners, this is going to be close. 34, 35. No, he doesn't have it, unfortunately. He improves on his time, but he's 7/10 off the fastest lap. So that goes to Izzat Kush after a very spectacular drive, starting 12th to finish 2nd at Singapore. It's no easy feat. Harry Tomato will cross the line in 10th place. So there you go. As I said right at the beginning, field size doesn't determine the racing. It doesn't determine the quality of racing. And again, it proved it here tonight. That's some pretty good stuff, I must say. Fairly entertaining stuff. It didn't make this Singapore Grand Prix long and unbearable. But well done, ACW. Kept it clean. Did a very, very good job getting a well-deserved win. Isaac Kush, a fantastic drive. Almost had it in the end, but he had 6 seconds worth of pens. So one of those invalidated times was indeed 3 seconds. And Plevs, a very deserving P3 after starting from 11th as well and getting no time penalties next to his name. Plevs in 4th, Plevs in 3rd, Rhythms in 4th, dearie me. Drove well, defended well from Plevs all the way throughout that final stint. If penalties were to thing, that would have been a very deserving podium, but I reckon he'll be pretty happy with 4th. By contrast, in 5th place, A Star is Born in 6th, ACSC from pole position to finish 7th. Yeah, he won't be too pleased about that, but at least he'll be happy to score something. GeForce Dre in 8th, VSR Roscoe in 9th, and to round out the finishers and the top 10, the Hairy Tomato scoring 1 singular point for himself and Alfa Romeo. Dearie me. But there we go. Not a bad race at all, considering it only had 12 drivers. But I've seen races with 13, I've seen races with 11, and they still churn out some pretty good racing. So don't be too disheartened when you see those small fields, because sometimes you see a gem of a race. And this one wasn't too bad at all. But I reckon that will end round 13 of this championship. Next round, where's that? So we go from Singapore, I believe it's the Sochi Autodrome in Russia. Everybody's favourite racetrack, clearly. Everyone's favourite Tilkadrome. The most iconic part of the circuit, of course, is the mega left-hander of turn 3. It's pretty much the only memorable part of the racetrack. The most notable feature of it is that you basically have to cut just about every single corner on the racetrack if you want to be competitive around there, from my own experience at the very least. But although it's a boring racetrack in real life, with Sochi, in the video game world, I've seen some pretty good races from there. So, a bit like what I said at the beginning of the stream tonight, be optimistic for next week. I know, Russia, in real life it's boring. In the sim world, it can churn out some pretty decent racing. So, again, be optimistic. But yeah, I think that will end the stream. Dearie me. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. Congratulations to ACW, Isaac Kush, and Plevs, the league coordinator, for their respective podium positions. And I suppose we'll see you all next week, ready for the Russian Grand Prix. But until then, I've been the Smeg. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you at the Sochi Autodrome for the Russian Grand Prix. Until then, good night.